So it is my pleasure to be presenting Mr. Sanjeev Sanyal's book. He's one of my favorite authors in history of India, and I really like the work he's doing right now. And of course, also because of my love for children's books, I selected this adaptation of Sanjeev Sanyal's book, actually, the Incredible History of India's Geography is an adaptation of Sanjeev Sanyal's book, The Land of Seven Rivers, by Soumya Rajendran, who's a children's book author herself. Now, the first thing which I really liked is anyone you ask about where did Indian history start, everyone says Indian history starts with Harappa. Now, what I love about this book is that it begins with Pangaea. It literally begins with when the earth was one big island and then it broke into Gondwana, and how India swims across the ocean and attaches itself to Southeast Asia, where our destiny lies. Now, when I started working on this book, I just got to know, Mr. Mohit spoke to me on Tuesday saying, do this book. And on Wednesday morning, this quote appeared on the Bangalore Mirror. Wisdom is easy to carry, but difficult to gather. And I would say the same thing about history. So most of the history that we see today, obviously we didn't bother to gather it ourselves. We just took it out from what was already available with us. So the history that Indians learn now, children in India learn today, are primarily written by our invaders, obviously the British, mostly the British, and of course the invaders who made it their home. So, like the courts of Akbar or Babur or Jahangir, their courts were full of foreigners, and they wanted to showcase, their newfound land and where they have become kings. And so they wrote the Babarnama and the Akbarnama, and, also from the travel logs of ancient students, who came to our country, travelers and traders. Now, why? Because, possibly we are sitting on such a rich culture that we don't realize its value. Finally, when you go to Athens and see those big pillars and say, "Bas itna hi," and then you come back and see your Brihadishwara, or you go and see your, our own monuments in India, and then you realize when you travel outside, you come and say, oh my God, how much India has to offer. Thankfully, now after so many years, I feel, from Mr. Sanyal and a lot of other authors and historians, and across the world, it is not something that's only in India. All across the world, there is an intellectual trend to rewrite accurate history based on actual facts, and not, so that it is colored by the biases of foreign invaders and outsiders of the country. Of course, the only thing, like how Mr. Sanyal says, it's not, we also probably have our own bias, but at least it's our own bias. It's not some foreigner's bias that we are taking. Now, some of the surprises, I'm looking at it as this book is meant for young adults, it's meant for little children. So as looking at it as little babies, one of the first surprises I found, of course, where's India's largest dinosaur hatchery? So the world's largest dinosaur hatchery is actually in Balasinore. We are actually the Jurassic Park of the world. The largest number of dinosaur eggs in the world is found in Balasinore, which is in Gujarat. And that alone is not, the only dinosaur park in India. Actually, India, the whole country is strewn with a lot of dinosaur bones all across the country, and we have all these fossils which are there in Himalayas and in the coastal areas all over. And as a teacher and as a person who spends a lot of time with little children, I always wish that instead of my children saying, oh, I saw T-Rex, I saw, a Triceratops, I wish, they played with a Janosaur or a Rajasaur or an Icysaur, the Indian Satellite Institute, where they found the bones. Now they call it Icysaurus. So that's such a lot of fun. That's something that I thought Indian children should have, that fun element in our own history. I wish it was brought out. Then another thing which I found in this book is, of course, that we had Stone Age sites. So again, like Niranjan would know probably, when you go to Australia, you hear about the dreaming and, how, or you go to France, they talk about their Stone Age people. Now, obviously, we had our own people from the lower Paleolithic age, and we have over 100 sites all over India and about 54 which are well documented sites. Again, they are not all way back of the beyond. They are quite close to the cities. I wish, it's just that it does not show up in the travel maps and people don't really look at it. And thankfully, I'm hoping that after reading books like Mr. Sanjeev Sanyal's book, you go and explore it. I always feel that people should look at history, which is, outside the museums and outside. I wish we would showcase and the government would showcase more of the history which is not really in our textbooks. Of course, this book also has a lot of origin stories along the rivers. Again, Mr. Sanyal is very, very fond of rivers and oceans and naval history. So you find a lot, of course, it talks, one of the things which I really liked was how, the rivers Varuna and Asi, the streams go into Ganga, and that's where Varanasi comes in. The same way he talks about Sri Lanka's origin story, like Sri Vijaya is an Indian prince who goes and finds Sri Lanka. So it's not just this part of the country, but different parts of the world which were connected by India. Now, he claims that Vijaya may have been an Oriya prince who went to there. It could be a Tamilian prince or a Oriya prince, but definitely the prince is born from India. Then Singapore, again, you had the Sri Vijaya prince, or later he talks about how, Sir Raffles went from India and founded Singapore, which is where Mr. Sanyal comes from. And then, of course, he talks about, again, the Ayodhya princess, Suri Ratna, who goes and marries the Korean prince, Kim Suro. Now, all these kinds of histories, it's basically what I'm trying to say is about how the other countries in the world, they appreciate Indian culture a lot more than Indians ourselves. We tend to take it for granted. We tend to talk about our invaders more than our own people. Then, of course, this is one of my favorite stories from Mr. Sanyal's stories, which is about Kaundinya, who is a Brahmin sailor from India, and he goes in this ship and the ship breaks down, and then, he's attacked by these Naga tribe, which is, somewhere near Cambodia, and there's this Princess Soma, the moon-faced one, who falls in love with him while fighting with him, and they are, it is considered the origin story of Funan, which is the capital city of Cambodia. And of course, you have, this book has a lot of the development stories of Mumbai, Delhi, Kolkata, especially since a lot of you are from the Delhi area. It's like, it talks about the Tomars, how they settled, how Chauhan, how, it's not only about from Qutbuddin Aibak, but a whole lot of other people other than the Mughals before that, how, about Delhi is spoken about in this book, which is what I really like. Again, same thing with Mumbai and Kolkata. He talks a lot about the historical development of these areas, all the way from, the Pandava times. Hastinapur, or was in the Indraprastha, was in Delhi. Then, of course, he talks a lot about the naval history, which is his pet peeve of this author. And there's another book, of course, which is called The Ocean of Churn, where it's done in far more detail, but the story of seven rivers also has a lot of history of the naval history of India. So you have the main four ports, Bharuch in Gujarat, Tamralipti, which is Kolkata, and then Punbuhar or Kaveri Patnam in Chennai, in Tamil Nadu, and the Muzaris or Muchiri Patnam, which is in Kerala. He talks a lot about the history of these ports and how they, actually shaped the entire Indian history, which, because we have a Delhi-centric history or a North India-centric history, this very important part of how they influenced the world and how the world influenced them. So basically, if you see, a lot of the South Indians and our cultures are all based on the naval history in certain ways. Now, I would take one such an example. I had shared this post also in one of our groups. On the day of Kartik Purnima, when there was Dev Deepavali, you had the Bali Yatra. So it's not just there, it was also the, like, if you look at whether it is in Tamil Nadu or Kerala or Orissa, all these places, we actually celebrate Kartik Purnima more than we celebrate Diwali. Because it's probably, because of our naval history, or all our people used to use that time when the monsoon or the winds changed to travel on these coastal things. And so a lot of our food, our clothes, our customs, all of it was somewhere tied up to the naval history of this area, of the peninsula, which is, the great part of India. Of course, you know that from the book also, if you see, you would realize that Mr. Sanyal is a great fan, or probably rumored to be a big collector of books, of maps. So you'll see a lot of maps which talk about the migrations, about the trade routes, about historians, about travelers, and so many travelers by their names, by their origins. So I know that Ibn Battuta is a Moroccan, or Megasthenes, or even the other. I only knew about Hyun Sang till I read about the other Chinese people who came in to write about their history. And of course, we all base our history on these people, like simple things like Sandra Potter's story and all that. You would prefer to listen to Megasthenes when the same person has been mentioned with the actual name in Kalhana's history. That is, the Kalhana, the Kashmiri historian, has actually, in his book Rajatarangini, has written about the actual names of the kings, which Megasthenes has messed up and written, and it's accepted by the Indians everywhere. So a little bit about the maps. We know that the roads haven't changed in a big way, and this is something, again, if I was a young adult, this is something that would have really intrigued me. How our roads that we follow, the routes and the big roads that we follow today, were the roads that were there 3,500 or more than that. So going first with the Ramayana, the route of the Ramayana starts with Ayodhya and goes all the way to Sri Lanka. Then you have, it's a north-south direction travel. And then there's the Mahabharata, which starts in Gandhar and then goes all the way to Manipur, where Arjuna goes and marries Chitrangada. And it's a west to east kind of travel. And along the same cities and the same routes today, we have the Uttara and Dakshina paths of the ancient lands. And even today, the NH7 or the NH1 or the NH2, all of these are along the same cities which were there, so many years ago. This is another thing which I really liked. I know this is where Mr. Mohit is from, the Mauryan pillar of Allahabad. It is lying in obscurity. It's sitting in the fort. Not many people even look at it, but it's just amazing how we have something so old and so important lying around right in the middle of, like in plain sight, and we don't realize it. Even after searching a while, after reading the book, I searched around a little bit more and tried to find it in the travel logs, in the popular travel logs like Tripto or Holiday Inn or something, where let me find this pillar. It was difficult to find. This Ashokan pillar, which is in Allahabad Fort now, has inscriptions of three powerful kings, 100 years apart. So you have Ashoka, who first wrote on it. Then you have another 600 years later, you have Samudragupta of the Gupta dynasty, who also writes on it. And Jahangir, in the typical Mughal style, has kind of tried to write on top of your Samudragupta's inscriptions, which were, again, all of these people actually, during the time of their reign, Allahabad was in the middle of their kingdom, right in the bang in the middle of the kingdom. Even otherwise, he speaks about the importance of Sarnath, but during the time of these people, also, if you see their kingdoms at this time, Allahabad was bang in the middle of their kingdom, and that's where they decided to put their names and put inscriptions about and edicts about themselves on it. Mapping, just kind of recapping again, we mapped India's history from the prehistoric times till today. And of course, a lot of it in the book is based on the river Saraswati. He talks about how the Indus River and the Ganga River, both of them have the same species of the dolphin, even though they both are, miles apart from each other, or an ocean apart on the other side. The dinosaurs are the same species. So that itself shows, somewhere the rivers changed histories. And again, the whole book, starts with the prehistoric time, from the dinosaurs, goes to the Stone Age, has Harappan civilization, the Bronze Age. Then it has even stories about the Iron Age, where he brings in a little bit of Mahabharata, but also about our various kings, about how metals were found in India, didn't really come from outside, and of course a little bit of the landscapes. And also again, one of the pet peeves of the author is about how he actually does have these very, very strong commentary on how the migration or on the decline of the Harappan civilization was more because of environmental reasons and the drying up of the Saraswati. In our, if you look at how India is changing because of all the different elements that are there in this book, you realize that how our history, our Vedic history, talks more about the Saraswati river, and how today, our holy river is Ganga. We see Ganga in the Narmada, we see Ganga in the Godavari, we see Ganga in all our rivers in different ways, all the way to Rameshwaram. When you go, you have a little bit of Ganga there. How today, but then in the Vedic periods, if you read the Vedas in different ways, their holy river was the Saraswati. So we are a changing history, and it is updating, and it is a good time for us to update our history as well. So tying up the stories of Sapta Sindhu, which is the land of 7 rivers, from Pangaea, the beginning of time, to the Indian subcontinent today, we need to realize that we are not, one Chinese or just one Italian. No, big conglomerate of people who moved in and people who moved out. And so there are so many countries which talk about how we were, India was their origin country. And obviously, we did have the other way around also. So I'm sure that I have some Burmese blood, and I have some, Southeast Asian blood or Sinhalese blood. The same way, all of us are from various parts. So, and it also, kind of, that from the naval history that the rich regional histories, which every 1,000 kilometers it keeps changing, is because of, this wonderful journey that our subcontinent has started, like literally how it moved across the oceans. And the same way, we are a special country, and that's what he brings about. I really like this last line in the book, which says geography is not just about the physical terrain, but the meaning we attribute to it. So, like we have the Ganga, he talks about Ganga Talao in Mauritius, but we have the Ganga everywhere. And the same way, we still believe that Saraswati invisibly flows in Allahabad. So it's all about how we celebrate our Indianness and celebrate our diversity. That is what our culture is all about. And that is what Mr. Sanyal loves to bring out in his books. And it is such a pleasure reading this, not just this book, but so many other books. More power to him and more power to authors like him. Thank you so much.